Yo, what's going on, dudes? HK Titan here with a brand new video for you guys, and in today's video, I have something a little bit different planned for you guys because we are going to be remastering a user map. So the map that I'm going to be remastering today is made by Singular Mirth 21, and this map is called 4 Islands. So I was taking a look at this map and I thought this map had a really cool theme, and I really like the pathway design of this map as well. It's just I think we can actually come up with a different idea for this map to make this map look a little bit better. So I really like the idea of like 4 islands, but when you have like 4 islands, like the islands really aren't like the main theme of this map. Instead, if we add like a bunch of other islands to the actual map itself, I feel like it would look really, really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and get this map set up the way that he has it set up, and I'll bring you guys back as soon as I'm done. All right, so I have the pathway set up exactly the same way that Singular had his map set up. So now the next thing we want to do is we want to add a couple of islands up here in the top right, top left, bottom left, and bottom right as well. So let me go ahead and place down the islands too. All right, so this is going to be the basic layout of Singular's map. So like I was saying, I really like this map design, but I feel like we could do a little bit more. Now, unfortunately, we are going to go with a little bit of a different theme here because we're going to not only have 4 islands, we're actually going to have quite a few more islands because I'm going to turn this into like a archipelago where there's like a different like buildings on different islands, and the pathways are actually going to turn into rivers instead of like being in the open ocean, because I think that'll look really, really cool. So the first thing we want to do, we want to go ahead and make these islands a little bit bigger. So after we make these islands a little bit bigger, then we can go through and we can try to experiment a bit more by placing some more islands. And I think, like I was saying, I think it'll actually add so much to this map. All right, so this is going to be the basic layout of the map. As you guys can see, I went ahead and I edited like the size of the islands, and I also added like a bunch of other islands in the mix here. That way it kind of looked like a river like going through the entire map. Like if we take away these pathways, it'll actually look really, really cool. But I'm not done yet because I think I want to do a little bit of revamping with some of these pathways, and I want the pathways to intersect a bit more as well, because I want to like make the islands a little bit bigger, and I kind of want to reduce the amount of like pathways that are actually being seen here, because I really like the way that this pathway is laid out. But unfortunately, there's just like these open spots here they actually want to like take away and fill in with more islands. So the first pathway that I want to work with is I actually want to like move this pathway up here. That way this pathway or that way we can go ahead and make this island a little bit bigger, and we can also like take away from this like big open area here. So if we do this correctly, it should look really, 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 really cool. All right, so I think that's starting to look pretty solid. Now this pathway is like really, really short, so I think I'm gonna have to do something a little bit different with this pathway, and I can actually like take this path, and I can, instead of like going straight down, we can like bring it up here, and then we'll have it like circle around this island. I think that would look pretty cool too. So let me go ahead and do that really, really quick. All right, so there we go. I went ahead and I like kind of made the rivers like join together a little bit more, because I feel like having like multiple pathways next to each other just looked a little bit off. And then we can go back through with these areas, and we can make these areas look a little bit bigger, and I think it'll make the theme of the map kind of like mold together a little bit better. There we go, and I think that looks pretty cool. Now let me go ahead and take a look in sandbox mode really quick to see what these balloons are going to look like. Like if I'm not mistaken, the pathways for all of these balloons should look pretty sweet. All right, so this one's going to go around here. It's going to come all the way down here. So out of all the pathways, I think this one's going to be the shortest one. And then the longest one, I think is the one that enters over here, because that takes like a really, really long pathway. Yeah, so far, I think it looks pretty cool. Let me go ahead and send round one really quick. That we can get like a full like in-depth look at what the pathways are going to look like. And yeah, so far, I don't see any issues with the pathways. I do believe that this is going to be a relatively easy map. So that's something that you guys are going to have to keep in mind. I may actually end up adding a 4th pathway, because what I have in mind is I want to make like bridges connect all of these islands, And if we make bridges connect all of the islands, then we have like the possibility of adding another pathway, and we'll have like the pathway serve as like a road. And then we can have like more balloons go through the pathway. And I think that would look really, really cool. Now the question is like, what pathway would look the best? Obviously I think this pathway would serve for like roads really well. Another pathway that we could use is we could use this like, this dirt road. I think the dirt road would look pretty good too, and it would also meld well with the bridges as well. So actually, you know what? Let me actually go ahead and do that. But the only problem with this is like, we need to like extend like this pathway out a lot. That way we can make it seem like the bridge or the road is like coming in from the top here. So what pathway do I want this path to take? I think I want this like path to like go across this little like area here. So we'll add ourselves a bridge. Now, the only problem is like when the balloons do cross over this pathway, the balloons will phase through the bridge, but there's not too much that we could do about it. And I really didn't want to miss out on a really cool opportunity like this to make a map that's kind of designed like this. There we go. And I think that looks really, really cool. So we'll have a couple of bridges that connect to these islands. And then after we connect all of the islands, then we can go ahead and like add like a forest island. And then we could like turn the islands where they really don't have a connecting bridge to them into like overgrown islands. I think that would look really, 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 really cool. All right, so now the next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and set up the bridges. So let me go ahead and get the bridges set up really, really quick. All right, so I ran into my first issue, guys. So I don't think I can actually make this happen because we only have like 2 different bridge things that we can use. And the only problem is like this bridge is like really, really long. And if we make it smaller, then it's not going to be able to cover up the what if we like make it like really, really small? And then if we do this, then we like make another one. Oh, dude, actually, never mind. I think I can make it work. I was a little bit worried that I would have to like use this like really short bridge. But you know what? Actually, if we make this small, okay, never mind. I was a little bit worried there for a second, but I think I actually got how to make this work. All right, so now we have the basic layout of our map set up. So we have a 4-pathway map. Now this map is going to be really, really easy. Well, for the most part, it should be pretty easy. But we are going to be adding a lot of props, and that's actually what's going to make this map really, really hard, is the amount of props that I'm going to place down. So I need to make sure that I don't end up covering, or I need to make sure that I make this map beatable, but at the same time, I need to make this map difficult at the same time, right? All right, so I added like a couple of houses throughout the archipelago here. And now that we have all the houses set up as well as the bridges set up, we need to start adding a little bit more detail. So the first thing I want to do is I want to add fenceways across these bridges. Now, again, the balloons are going to clip through the fences. There's not really too much that we can do about that without like making it so the balloons that came from this pathway would go underneath the bridge. And I think that would look a little bit too weird. So we're going to have to deal with a little bit of clipping, but with the current BTD6 Map Editor, there's not really too much that we can do about a little bit of clipping, guys. All right, so we added fences along all of the bridges here. Now, one thing that I hope Ninja Kiwi adds in like a future update is just like a singular fence pole that we can like cap off the ends of these fences. To be honest, I'm not sure why they didn't add one to begin with, because if they add one to begin with, like, I feel like this would be a little bit better. Or instead of like having it be like a fence post that doesn't have like a cap at the end, I wish they would have just added that cap. That way it would have been a little bit easier to like actually like make fences, right? But for the most part, I don't feel like this looks terrible with like the tools that we were given. I still feel like it looks pretty decent, right? So now the next thing we want to do, we want to start adding a couple of trees. So the trees that I want to add here, I'm debating on whether or not I want to add like some of these like cherry blossom trees, as well as we could add a little bit more greenery by going with like the spruce trees. And we could go with like these trees here. And then I almost want to add like a couple of these purple trees too. Just like mix up the color and the contrast of our map. And I think if we do it correctly, this should look pretty sweet, right? Okay, so I added a little bit more detail by adding like a bunch of trees on the map. Also, I added like a couple of different like shades of trees across the map as well. That we could like mix up the color a bit by just adding like a couple of trees. So I have like a little bit of a darker red tree over here on this island. And then over on this island, I didn't want to include any trees because I want this to be a little bit more of a cleared off area. Over here we have this single house, and obviously this person on this house really enjoys having like a bright, vibrant trees. So that's why I added these pink trees over here. And then, of course, I added a bunch of detail along the outside as well. And so far, I think this map is coming together quite nicely. Now I want to go through and I want to start adding a couple of stamps. That way we can like kind of fill in like all of these like big green areas. So let's go ahead and add ourselves a stamp layer. So stamp layer 2, we'll go ahead and make sure that the stamp layer 2 is beneath everything, except for the areas, of course. All right, so I think we have like the base layer of all of the detail placed down. Now I want to go through and I want to start adding a couple of shrubs around our map too, to add a little bit more detail that way. And then after we add some shrubs, we'll go into some like really fine details as well. And then after we add the shrubs, I think I'll actually go back through, or actually no, we'll go ahead and do the shrubs. Then after we do the shrubs, that's when we'll go through and we'll add a little bit more flowers. And then after we add the flowers, we'll go through and add that fine detail that we're looking for. All right, so now I went ahead and I added a bunch of shrubs around the map to add a little bit of contrast as well as add a little bit more detail. And I really like the way that this is turning out so far. Like, we still have plenty of room to like place down towers. And if I'm not mistaken, these sight lines should be pretty good too. That's actually something I'm going to check right now. Let me go ahead and grab a sniper. Apart from the bridges, guys, like, there's not really too much that's affecting like our sniper's sight line. Of course, the bridges are going to affect these sight lines, but other than the bridges, as well as the buildings, there's nothing that's really affecting our sniper, right? Now, I'm not exactly sure why, but one thing that's like kind of getting on my nerves is like all of like the sight lines are underneath the pathway, so it's like kind of messing me up a little bit. But I think for the most part, this looks really good, guys. Now I want to start adding a little bit more fine and in-depth detail, because right now, like I was saying, I feel like this map looks pretty good, but we can definitely take it to the next level. So the first thing I want to do to take it to the next level is I want to start adding like a couple of potted plants around the map, and I want to add them around the buildings. That way they look like more like upkept, and I feel like they would look a little bit better if they looked a little bit more upkept. So the plants that I'm going to be using like this style of plant here, and because it's supposed to be like a main building in the little town, let's just go ahead and like do this, and I feel like that's gonna look really cool. Yeah, that definitely looks really cool. Now we'll go ahead and add some over here. We'll lower it down just a little bit. Even though like some of these props you guys really won't be able to see, I still feel like they're gonna have a big impact on what we're trying to go for, right? Or they'll have like a big impact on the map itself. All right, so far so good. So I added a little bit of a windmill here because I thought the windmill looked really cool. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to start adding some more flowers around this map too. That way we could like kind of fill in like the small blank spaces. But before we start adding the flowers, I actually want to go through with like the small pebbles first. And I want to go with like these small pebbles here because I think these small pebbles would look really cool if we just like place them randomly around the map. All right, guys, and I think that's gonna about do it for the props. Like, I added a bunch of flowers in the background, and I really think that those flowers really brought a lot of life to our map. Now, the next thing we want to do, it's time to like really pull our map together, and we need to start adding shade around all of these props. So this is always like the part that I get the most excited about, because once we start to add the shade to the map, everything on our map is really going to start to come to life. Because for some reason, every time we add shade, it always adds so much depth to our map. And it always makes the map look like it has a lot more detail, which is why this is like my favorite part of the entire process. Now, one thing we need to be careful about, because we used a bunch of the flowers, we can't place down a bunch of shade around the areas that have like the actual flower props, because if we add like shade around the areas that have the flower props, then we're going to be in a little bit of trouble because the shade doesn't work on props, unfortunately. So we need to be like really careful when we're placing shade around the flowers, because if we make it like too dark, then it's going to look a little bit off. But if we don't add any shade at all, then it's not going to look as good, right? But so far, so good. I really like the way that all the shade is coming together so far. Now we need to swap over to the smaller shade. That way we can go ahead and like add the like fine details around our map. Or not the fine details, but like the fine shading. All right, dudes, and I think that's gonna about do it for our map design. So because there's so much detail on this map, I'm gonna go ahead and do one more once over to like take a look at all of the different props to make sure I didn't miss out on any like shading or anything like that. Now, like I was saying, the shading's not going to be perfect, and that's because I used a lot of flowers. And as you guys can see, if like we place like shade right here, it's not going to look good because the flowers are just going to like stand out. So it's a little bit unfortunate that shade doesn't work on the flowers. But like I was saying, there's not too much that we can do about it. But for the most part, I really like the way that this looks. Like, I really feel that dark atmosphere, like over here in like the really wooded spots, as well as I can feel the lighter part of like in the town. And I really, really like the way that this map turned out, guys. So now the next thing we have to do is we have to go ahead and play. Oh, wait, no, we need to come up with a or background effect. So for the background effect, let's just go ahead and use the cloud background effect, because the cloud background effect always looks good no matter what map you're playing on. So we also need to choose some music. And you know what? Let's just go with the main theme of a Bloons TD6. I haven't used the main theme of BTD6 yet, so I figured why not, especially since it has like a village vibe. All right, so now that we designed this really in-depth map, we need to go ahead and name this map. So this is supposed to be 4 islands, but well, actually, you know what? We still have that 4 islands vibe, because we have like buildings on 1 island, buildings on 2 islands, buildings on 3 islands, and then we have a building on the 4th island as well. So I almost wanted to name this like swirling streams, or I have no idea what I would have named this map. So I think we'll just stick with the 4 islands remastered. So a big shout out to a Singular Mirth 21 again for coming up with that really cool like path design. I know the like maps look nothing's close to what they should look like, right? But because this map, I feel like there was so much more that could be done with this map, I went ahead and I took it to the next level. So Singular Mirth, if you're watching this, I really hope you enjoy the way that I remastered your map. Now, one thing that's going to be a little bit tough about this map is I actually have no idea if this is beatable on Chimps. So I would like you guys to actually play this map for yourselves, and let me know if you guys can actually beat this on Chimps, because this just looks like it would be a pain in the butt to black border, especially since you need to like pay attention to 4 different pathways, as well as there's not a lot of room to like place down a bunch of towers. But while we're beating this map, I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Also, I want to say thank you guys so much for the support on the series. I know I say it a lot, but I can't thank you guys enough, because you guys are absolutely crushing it. That being said, of course, if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you guys hit that like button. Also, if you guys are new around here, don't forget to subscribe as well, because I do upload a daily BTD6 content. Also, if you guys have a map that you guys would like to see me remaster, or if you guys made a map that you guys want me to like remaster or reimagine, then please feel free to let me know in the comments below. Also, if you guys just have like a map design in general that you guys would like to see in BTD6, again, please feel free to let me know in the comments below, and I'll do my best to make your map design happen. All right, dudes, here we are on round 39, and like I was saying, I think I unintentionally made this map a little bit harder than it needed to be, because like there's not a lot of room to place a lot of towers at all. Luckily, the paths are pretty long, so we definitely had a lot of time to actually pop the balloons. So it wasn't too bad of a map. It was just a little bit harder than I intended. But that's perfectly fine, because I really enjoy the way that this map turned out. So if you guys would like to play this map for yourself, here is the code. And also, if you guys end up beating this on Chimps, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. And also, what strategy you guys used in order to beat this on Chimps. And a big shout out to Singular Mirth 21 again for coming up with this map design. It was a really fun map to remaster. But that's gonna do it for the video. Thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you dudes in the next one.